Morning, everyone. So I'm Liz. I'm the director of Hallidays HR. So the HR arm of Hallidays. So we look after kind of small and medium-sized businesses that don't have their own HR teams. So as I'm sure you can imagine, we've had a very busy 6 months, and it doesn't look like it's coming to an end anytime soon. But what I'm going to talk to you today is about. We've got 6 weeks left of the furlough scheme. It did look like there was some light at the end of the tunnel. Not sure, hearing things in the news, and today, obviously, it's not as positive as we would hope to. But nevertheless, the furlough scheme is coming to the end as far as we know it in 6 weeks' time. And, potentially we need to start making some decisions as business owners as to what our businesses are going to look like in the future, what that means for you, and to know what's available and what the kind of new world in the business is going to look like. So next slide down, please. Okay, so this is an ever familiar picture here, which I think we're probably all sick of seeing at the very beginning, but it has been excuse my French, but it has been a batshit crazy kind of 6 months, hasn't it? It's been a whole 177 days, which is nearly 6 months since we entered into lockdown. And it just, since the start of lockdown, it just feels like such a long time ago. We have really been through a lot. If you think that at the beginning, it was things like we were queuing for 5 miles down the street for some milk, and then getting told off by a stranger in the queue because you didn't realise there actually was a queue because everybody was standing 2 meters away. Or the fight for toilet roll, the fight for flour, for pasta. I remember hearing at the beginning that the supermarkets were going to run out of wine, so quickly logging on to Amazon to buy myself a crate load because there's no way I could get through homeschooling the kids without any wine. Things like it might not have gone away so far, but wearing joggers all the time. I don't think anybody got into normal clothes for a good kind of 3 or 4 months, and even if you did, it was only top half up because you were having a Zoom call. So the one thing I think from a business point of view that really kind of stuck with me was listening to Boris every day, 5 o'clock, waiting to hear what bombshell he was going to drop. And then figure out what that meant for me and my family and what we had to do, what it meant for the business, for my team, and then trying to figure out what it meant for my clients and what messages we needed to put together, and figure all that out all before 7 o'clock before start of play the next day. So it was absolutely crazy busy. We've never been that busy in our lives, and all whilst trying to keep the kids educated, fed, entertained. Really has been a struggle over the last 6 months for everybody, I think. But for now, kids are back at school. So hopefully, don't know how long that's going to last for, but hopefully it will be for the foreseeable. So things are kind of getting a little bit back to normal. And I think no matter what your kind of journey has been on the business front, I think people are starting now to look towards the future and to look at, okay, what does this mean for my business? Now, a lot of you might have taken advantage of the coronavirus job retention scheme and placed people on furlough. And it was an absolute godsend for so many businesses, and might still be a godsend. It started on the 20th of March. The Chancellor announced that there was going to be an introduction of the furlough scheme. So it would allow employers basically to put people on furlough, and that they would be able to claim a grant for up to 80% or a maximum of 2,500 gross per month, so that they didn't have to be made redundant predominantly. So the business was obviously, a lot of businesses were closing. There was no business to do, and it would have resulted in a lot of jobs. So this really, really did save a lot of businesses. Initially, the scheme ran for 3 months, and then it was extended, and it was announced in at the end of May that come the 1st of July, there would be a more flexible approach to the furlough scheme. So this would basically allow people to work part-time. They could do any hours that they wanted to, but the employers would have to pay for the hours that the employee actually worked, but they could claim for the rest up to the 80%. So it was kind of looking at getting, as businesses started opening and going back to work, it was encouraging that return to, okay, you might not have full capacity within your business at the moment, but let's get them back to doing something. Let's slowly ramp this up a bit. And again, it was quite vastly taken up on, and over the months we have seen that there's been a decrease in the number of people that have been fully furloughed, which is great to see. Next slide, please, Dan. So if we just have a look at, just very briefly, what employers need to contribute. So I guess I'm going to concentrate really on September and October, because we're in September at the minute. October's still to come, so just to have a look at what you are entitled to if you are still furloughing staff or need to furlough them at the minute. So September is that the government will contribute 70% of wages, so up to 2,187.50, and they will also but you will need to pay the top up of the 10%, and you'll also need to pay all NI and pension contributions for the hours worked and the hours not worked. And then come from the 1st of October, that dips down to the government contribution dips to 60%. So you, as an employer, need to top up the other 20%, and again pay the for any hours worked, pay the NI and pension contribution for hours worked and non-worked. So but the scheme is coming to an end as of the 31st of October. I know that there was I've heard rumours, or there's been an outcry from certain MPs that are looking to extend the scheme further, but in an announcement last week, I think Boris mentioned that there's no point keeping people in a state of suspended animation anymore, and that we need to move on and we need to deal with what's actually going to be the outcome and the fallout about this. So it is really looking at what is next, what options do we have as business owners. So there are a few different options, and I'm sure they won't be new to you. As of the 1st of November, there's the job retention bonus scheme. So this is £1,000 bonus for any employee that has been previously furloughed for any amount of time, that they have been continuously employed from the 1st of November to the 31st of January, and that they've earned a minimum of £520 per month, or an average of £1,560 across 3 months if they're on variable income. So it's not quite 60, 70 or 80% contribution to wages, but if it is still a bit of an incentive and a bit of a benefit and a buffer for 3 months to kind of to see where the business is going to be at the end of January. What they've said is that the portal for making that claim will be open from February, so be able to claim the whole 3 months at once in that February time. It might be, if you've had people on furlough, that you might need to look at restructuring. So, maybe as a result of people being on furlough, you've managed to do things differently, or you've managed to absorb certain tasks within other people's roles, and actually you've realised, do you know what, we don't need these particular roles. We've found efficiencies whilst working from home that actually, there are different ways of doing things. Or maybe your business has completely changed. It might be that you did a lot of things maybe in a shop selling kind of front of house on a high street, whereas actually your business has changed to predominantly being online led. So job roles and the structure and how you do your business has really changed. So it is a really good opportunity to look at what you have or what you had and what you need. So and thinking, okay, this is, it's a good time to think, let's sort this out. Let's actually look to the future and what we're going to need going forward. And obviously that might mean a change in some jobs. So you might need to have conversations with your team around, this is the job you were doing before, this is how it's changed, and have those particular conversations. Or it might be that you have to have a more negative conversation and you may need to make some redundancies as an impact of that. Unfortunately, throughout the pandemic, they haven't given any kind of leeway in employment law. So all of the employment law that stood before the pandemic, all the legislation is exactly the same. So, you need to make sure that whatever process, if you do need to go through a process, that you are, following the guidelines, doing things properly, going through a fair and open, transparent process. And if you do need to get some help, some professional help on that, then I would advise that you do so, because it can be, obviously a very expensive area to get wrong. There might be an option if you think there might be a temporary reduction in work. So I've seen a lot of businesses go, they've been paying the 80% on the furlough scheme, and come the kind of beginning of November, they thought, we don't need people back full time. We can't afford the full-time salary. Let's look and see whether people are open to working part-time for a period of time. And that's called short-time working. So unless you have a specific clause in your contract with this, it's not something that you can impose. Obviously, if you did have it in there, you can impose it, and they don't really have to agree to it. But if you don't, you can simply kind of have a conversation, and normally people are quite reasonable if they understand that, the business is struggling. This means that they still have a job, but that for a period of time that you'll only be able to pay them 80% for doing kind of part-time work. They're quite reasonable and open and agreeable to doing that. So that is an option that you could have in the shorter term. Next slide, please, Dan. Okay, so, as lockdown kind of continues to ease and businesses start getting back on track, I think there was, a few people were talking about getting people back into the business and what that looks like, and more people going back into the office. What you have to do now, there's so many kind of hoops to go through if you want people in the office, and to make sure that, the workplace is COVID secure. There is all the hand sanitizing, the screens, the one-way systems, the social distancing, and making sure you have all that in place. And there's risk assessments that need to be completed, and I'm sure you've all seen them. The government also has online, there's, depending on your sector, they have some sector specific guidelines, so that as kind of tips and guidelines and criteria as to how to make your particular business COVID secure and adhere to what you need to do. You might also be thinking about whether you go ahead and have physical meetings. I don't know how many of you have started to kind of get out and about and see clients face to face, but certainly in mine, it went from being obviously everything being done virtually to some clients want to have that kind of face-to-face contact. But it might be, this is a good time to think, during lockdown, there was so many efficiencies, from time, from just lots of kind of entertaining, the costs of kind of travel, all of that is kind of, it's created and saved a lot of money within a lot of businesses. So, is there any need to go back to that? Will there be more of a push for doing virtual meetings? And will you make a conscious decision that within your team that is, you know, what you're going to do. And, you know, many within the team itself, a lot of people who have been able to work from home have actually really embraced it. And people are, the teams are not looking now, whereas before they might have been in the office 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. That, you know, it's kind of changed their mindset a lot. And I know myself that I'm exactly the same. Is that, you know, I don't want to do that anymore. I've actually found that, you know, I am more efficient at home, especially now the kids have gone back to school. But, you know, I can be more efficient. It saves a lot of time not going to meetings. Yes, I do miss the chit chat, and that is something that that you might find that people do miss, and you might have to put something in place around that, which I'll touch on later. But people are looking for that flexibility, that work-life balance, that, you know, they're able to pop out and pick the kids up from school, you know, because they've done it for 6 months. So I was speaking to a recruitment agency actually the other week, and they were saying to me that they've seen within candidates that they're not looking for the same jobs as they were before. They're always asking, okay, that's great, looks like a fantastic job, but what flexibility does it have, and is there a capacity to work at home at least part of the time? So, you know, it is kind of changing. I think it has accelerated this whole remote working that was probably coming anyway, but it's just it's just some food for thought, really. Some people are there. I think as business owners and managers, there are some challenges around remote working. You know, it's not all kind of a positive story, and it will suit some people more than others, and obviously some jobs more than others, and some might not be able to be done from home. But some of the questions that I've been asked from some of my clients about remote working, and some of their concerns are more around, well, you know, how am I going to manage the results from people working remotely? How do I keep my team engaged? You know, how do I keep an eye on their employee well-being and their mental health? And it is a kind of step change in that management. And I think, you know, we need to, obviously we're going to need new skills in terms of managing that, and maybe putting some processes in place that help to do that. But in terms of managing the results remotely, some people are really concerned, you know, that, you know, they're not doing their 9 till 5 every day. You know, what are they doing in that time? Are they loading the dishwasher? Are they putting the washing on? And in my mind, you know, I kind of think, well, does it really matter? You know, if they're getting the job done and they're getting the results that you need, if they're doing a few other things in the background, you know, does it really matter? I think so long as you've got, you know, clear KPIs, so they know exactly what they're meant to achieve and what they're doing overall. You give them clear job descriptions, you have regular reviews, so that you can, you know, touch base and make sure that they are on track and doing what they're doing. And that, you know, if you need to have any difficult conversations, that you're kind of nipping it in the bud very early on. And that obviously there's a forum in terms of regular communication, that they know you're always there. If they need you, they just need to ring. Or with the kind of one-to-ones, there's always a kind of a designated time for them to raise any questions or queries that they might have. So, you know, and then it kind of comes to the question of keeping people engaged. So, I mean, more often than not, it is the social side of things that people miss. And it's the, you know, the chit chat, the interaction, the, you know, the having lunches together and that type of thing. So I know that some of our clients, and I was at Hallidays, you know, we've done things like virtual wine and cheese tasting nights, or Zoom quizzes, which I'm sure many of you might be over by now, but because they were very good at the start. But things like, you know, fancy dress competitions, make things a bit fun. Or even, you know, because the rule of 6 means that we can meet up to 6 people outdoors now. You know, if your team feels comfortable, go and have a team lunch somewhere, socially distanced, or, you know, have a team meeting. but just reassure people that you're going to take the measures that are necessary in order to keep them safe. But it does take a lot of commitment. It does take a lot of effort, but I think the rewards that you can reap are massive by doing this. I think one of the things that's going to it's definitely on my radar for the next few months from a HR point of view, and it's in the press a lot, is all about the employee well-being and the mental health, because we have been working at home now, a lot of us, for 6 months. The kids are back at school, but we don't know how long for. I think I know myself, I was kind of working towards, it's okay, we can get there, it's nearly school time, and then you get to school and it's a big sigh of relief. But then I think it's now kind of, well, it's not going to stop there. Some of the schools might be closing, and mentally that is really quite stressful and and draining, really. So it's important to kind of stay in touch with how people are feeling, and it's easy when you're in the office, isn't it? Because you can pick up on a vibe, and you just know when somebody within your team isn't quite right, or they're having an off day, and you can just kind of nip over to their desk and be, is everything all right? Is everything going on? And normally, something spills. So obviously you won't have that, which is why the kind of regular reviews really kind of come into play. We've been working on, I know that the lady before was talking about doing a survey with their team, and we've been working on that with quite a few of our clients, actually, just to kind of gauge how happy the team are with the current working situation, whether they feel safe, whether they've got enough access to their manager, whether they've got everything that they need to be working from home, and just to kind of really kind of understand how people are feeling and how the team is feeling, so that you can put things in place. You might have the opposite side of so although people are enjoying the flexibility of working from home, you might find that some people are working too much, and that you're having to manage that as well, because the workplace is in their home, and so the work is always there, and they're just dipping in and dipping out, and they find it very difficult to switch off. So that might be something to be aware of as well. So there is a lot to think about. There's I think this new world of ours is going to keep changing, and but it is such a fantastic opportunity to shape the business for the future, and to hopefully embrace this new world, and just hope we don't go into a second lockdown. Okay, thank you very much. Has anybody got any questions?
Liz, I've got a question. I think some of the feedback that I get as I'm going around doing COVID risk assessments now for businesses to get the people back to work, one of the problems that seems to have come up a lot is that people have got inappropriate surroundings, let's say, to work from home. So if a business decides, actually, we're not going to have people back until January, which is a realistic proposition for a lot of businesses now, because they have managed for 6 months.
Yeah.
How do you look after those people who haven't had a proper work environment at home? What can we do for those people?
Do you mean in terms of physically, as in?
Yeah, physically, it can be both. It can
computers, that type of thing.
It can be both.
I was going to say, I think it's kind of two sides. There's either the equipment that they need in order to do the job, and the Wi-Fi, and that type of thing. So obviously, if you can help those people because it's likely that we're going to be working from home more and more, and especially if there is the risk of a second lockdown, if you can be ready for that, and there isn't the opportunity to be able to go into the office, then I think as a business it would be valuable to support them to get the physical things that they would need to do their job. But obviously, if it's in terms of distractions, maybe young children at home, partner at home, I think that's a bit more difficult to manage, because obviously there's only so much space that people might have. So that bit, I'm not sure how much you could be expected to do from that point of view. And it might be that they actually might be one of the people that you could bring into an office, or at least a more kind of environment away from those distractions.